Samuel, come quick. I've had an idea for a novel. It will be the greatest novel in human history. Write these words down. Before today's lecture begins, I'd like to take a moment to make a few announcements. Forum responses so far have been pretty good. However, there are a few things I'd like you to keep in mind. These first few forums are designed mostly to get you acclimated to doing this, knowing when the assignments are due and when you should be posting them. Do not wait until the last minute. You have to keep in mind that other people need to respond to your responses. I set these due dates of turning in that first part and then responding to 5 others a few days apart so that we can have those conversations. So be sure to treat our discussions with the respect that they deserve and give them the time and energy necessary to really come up with good ideas. Don't wait until the last minute to post your responses either. It makes it harder for everyone else and me. You want to take the time and do a little bit every day. You don't want to overwhelm your classmates or yourself by trying to rush and get it done at the last minute. It's going to make it sloppy. Keep in mind, this is not a correspondence course. Yes, it is online, and it's about creating a schedule that works for you. But regardless, you should be logging in at least a few times a week, if not once a day. It doesn't mean you have to do something every single day, but you should be trying to take that time and energy to really give it all that it deserves. In order to talk about dystopias, first we have to talk about utopias. The concept comes from Thomas More's 1516 novel, Utopia. Utopia is derived from the Greek roots for the words good and place, meaning good place. Typically, a utopia is that perfect world where things sort of happen the way they're supposed to, and everybody is happy, and it's a system or a government that just plain works. The word dystopia, however, comes from the Greek words for bad and place, meaning bad place. Typically, these are man versus society style plots. A dystopia is typically a government or order which appears beneficent and loving, but removes some liberties from its people. Critics are quick to call this an anti-utopia or the opposite of utopia, but I think such a classification is too reductive. Dystopias are utopian in design. Those systems work very well for a small amount of people. However, it's for the other small segment of the population that it doesn't work for, that it becomes unbearable. And that is really what we can think of as a dystopia as. It's a combination of those utopian ideals. It's what people want. It makes them satiated. But there's still that longing and desire to escape for a certain part of the population. Some of the best examples of dystopias are 1984 by George Orwell, A Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, V for Vendetta by Alan Moore, Battle Royale, Clockwork Orange, Fahrenheit 451, City of Truth, and Hunger Games. Born in England in 1894, Huxley was a humanist, pacifist, and satirist, and was one of the premier intellectuals of his time. His works include Brave New World, Point Counterpoint, The Doors of Perception, and After Many a Summer. He wrote Brave New World in 1931 and was published in 1932, and it serves in many ways as a parody of the utopian novels of H.G. Wells. Huxley himself referred to the novel as a negative utopia. The novel is set in 2540 and tells the story of the people living under the world state, which creates humans for all tasks, and sets them up into a caste system, predetermining their roles in society. In terms of the historical context of the novel, there are a lot of things happening in the early 1900s. For one, we have industrialization, the assembly line, Henry Ford, the automobile. All of these things are creating industry, right? No longer are people forced to work in textile mills and sort of do these things by hand, but they're using machines to help them. Also, we have the advent of psychology, and Freud specifically, changing our perceptions of ourselves, tapping into the unconscious and subconscious minds that exist. There's also the Great Depression, which is happening at this time. It's not just the United States that's suffering, but countries all around the world are in miserable financial conditions. We have the end of World War I, the rumblings of World War II, the rise of fascism, Nazism, and communism, and the Russian Revolution in 1917. And of course, there's a flurry of social changes going on as well at this time. We have women's suffrage, right? Not only do women get the right to vote in 1918 in England, of course, only for women over 30, but also we have these new revolutions for women, or these new opportunities. When men leave to go to the war, women have to start taking on more responsibilities in industry. And not only that, it allows them a certain freedom when it comes to their social lives as well. During the Roaring '20s, women began smoking cigarettes, and premarital sex became somewhat of a commonplace occurrence. Not entirely, of course, but sex became a little bit more open. It's not the revolution that happened in the 60s, but there is a greater sense that sex is something not so bad. And one final announcement to keep in mind. Your first paper will be due the 26th of September. You will find the assignment and its prompt in the Assignments tab on Web Study. Please make sure to take a look at it and start preparing now as we read Brave New World so that you aren't rushing to turn in that paper and turn in sloppy work. If there's one thing I can't stand, it's bad papers. I want my students to give every paper the time and the dedication that it deserves.